you should buy rentals today. Just figure out the process to buy that rental with other people's money. You'll start building wealth today. I am in Dayton, Ohio, and I only invest in Dayton, Ohio, invest locally. And let's see. Yes, in the past 10 years, I've bought over $8 million in real estate, never used any of my own money in the beginning because I didn't have any money. And now I still prefer to structure deals so I don't use my own money. And I got here, it's not really a roundabout way. And so I was familiar with rental properties because my parents had rental properties. Okay. And so growing up, I always worked on rental properties. And to me, I took for granted all the benefits, but I took for granted that my family could go on long vacations and, I had time, my father had time freedom, and what I daily interacted with were the tenants and the headaches and the maintenance requests and, all of that. And so, when I went to college, I wanted to be a high school English teacher. I didn't want anything to do with rental properties. And yeah, I said, no, not for me. And so I was a high school English teacher. Eventually, I felt called to ministry and was a missionary in Kenya and lived there for 4 years. And when we left for Kenya, my parents were getting ready to retire and asked if they should keep any of it. And I said, no, sell it all. I'm going to live in Kenya the rest of my life. And, God has different plans for you. And so we lived there 4 years, came back for the birth of our youngest son, and he had health issues and needed a breathing machine and couldn't fly, couldn't live in a remote setting. And so all of a sudden, I was sitting in this dark hospital room and I had bills to pay and I wasn't sure how my son was going to do health-wise. And I didn't have a house to live in. My job was ending because I couldn't move back to Kenya. We were living in a house provided by one of our supporting churches. I was driving a car provided by one of our supporters, and all of that was going to end. And that was a miserable place to be, right? That's a low point. And as a father, I felt like I wasn't providing for my family. Even more so, I felt like they really deserved more, and I was letting them down. And so, it was in that moment I committed that I was going to be a full-time buy and hold investor. I had no money. My job was ending. So I wasn't going to have any income. I had no way to borrow money from banks, but I just committed to it. And I went out and I just started telling people, right? Everybody I bumped into, hey, I'm buying real estate. I'm buying houses. I'm buying rentals. And I was saying it probably more for me than for them, right? I was casting a vision for my life and trying to convince myself that it was possible. And an interesting thing happened where over and over, when I would make those statements and tell people what I was going to do, I would hear similar responses where they would say, I always wanted to do that. I wish I could do that. Almost bought a rental a few years ago. Or, of course, people always say, I love those shows on HGTV. The numbers are amazing, right? And I realized there was this opportunity where I could help them get into real estate by being a lender, and they could be just like the bank and be the lender in my deals, and I could buy the rentals that I wanted. And so that's how I got my start. I raised money for the purchase and rehab from private lenders, and then I would refinance it with other private lenders for long-term loans, and I just kept recycling money and raising more and more money. So I was a full-time buy and hold investor from day one. Let's see, at about 25 doors, I started to figure out seller financing because I was making and I was making low cash offers, which is the only way I could purchase it and refinance it and get all the money back out. And I was realizing that some of the sellers, that really wasn't what helped them the most, right? Taking 70 cents on the dollar is great for a seller who needs money urgently or has some immediate issue. But for a lot of sellers, it was better for them to just get paid a little bit each month and be paid over time, especially retiring landlords. There's all kinds of benefits for them.
Sure.
And so we started adding in some of those deals, and I did my first cash out refinance at 55 doors, and now we're at 80 doors, and still haven't used a bank to buy a property. And I mean, it's amazing. I got into real estate kind of reluctantly just to pay bills, right? And my kids had a tendency to want to eat. I don't know what was wrong with them. And now it's provided so much more than I could have ever imagined in what feels like a short amount of time. And so I'm passionate about sharing that process with other people and encouraging other people so that they can do something similar, because so many investors I meet, they see financing as an obstacle, and over they say, well, I have this much money, so I can only do this kind of investment, or I want to wholesale, so someday I can buy a rental. And I'm passionate about helping people overcome the obstacle of financing. And if you want to buy rentals, if you want to build wealth, you should buy rentals today. Just figure out the process to buy that rental with other people's money, and you'll start building wealth today. That's what excites me.